Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from bitamount.com, bitamountlive.com, and P.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday, January 14th, 2022. And this is our weekly video, of course. And we do this every Friday, talk about what's been selling over on eBay, what's coming up on our global member pages that people subscribe to that help support the site. And we feature on there things from live auctioneers and auctions from all over the world where we find things that we like, pick out things and put them on there to share with everybody. And there's a lot of stuff on there. It's been a busy week around here. This week we did a video the other day. Yesterday we put one out on collecting we've been doing them on things that I've collected over the years to share the stories that go behind them and why I bought things and so forth. And yesterday was one on a rather interesting Ming brush pot that I bought just this year on eBay for a bargain price, $99. So there it goes. It still happens. But at any rate, we talked about that, and now we're going to talk about what's going on here. One of the things that I want to let you know is if you come use the newsletter page, if you're a subscriber to it, and if you're not, you can come over to bitamount.com, sign up for it. It's up here on the menu, Bitamount Weekly Newsletter. You can sign up for free, and on here each week we put things, as many of you know, that we find on eBay that we check out that we think look pretty good, and you ought to consider buying if you're looking for things. And one of the things we did this week is that a whole lot of sellers came back on this week. The number of listings has gone up radically in the auction category over last week. And the week before, during December, it got so quiet. These are just some of the new listings that have appeared in the auction section. And then what we did was, here's the Bitamount Live section for the things on the bitamountlive.com site. Of course, it was there before. We've moved this. But below this, we've added a new section on fixed price items. And the reason we did it was we do get emails from people who don't want to wait around for auctions. They like to know a price. They like to buy things, and they prefer fixed price buying. And because not everybody likes to buy at auction. And so we've included fixed price items in here now on the newsletter page. And there's quite a lot of it. We found quite a bit of material from a lot of the sellers that you might be familiar with if you buy from them via auction. A lot of them have fixed price things that they sell as well. And you can, of course, negotiate with them. You can make them an offer, send them an email, get in touch with them, see if they want to give you a different price, see what you can get out of it. And there's some very nice things on here, I must say. There's some good-looking objects, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of objects on here. We went through and we called out as many as we could find from sellers that we like what they sell in general. They handle good things. They represent things fairly. So you want to check that out. It's at the bottom, heading down, way down the newsletter page. The newsletter page is, as you can see, gotten much larger this week, and we're going to see how it goes. We're going to leave it this way for a while, and if people seem to like it, we can see if people are clicking the links, and if they like it, we'll maybe expand on it, do something with it. But thought everybody would like that. All right, of course the auctions will remain too, so that's on there. And what is going on? What happened at eBay last week? Well, there wasn't as many of you know, there wasn't a lot of listings on there for the last couple of weeks. And last week there were a few. This week there are a lot, and I think they're going to be building up more and more and more as predicted. We generally see a fall off in late November, December, quiet for the first week or so of January, and then all of a sudden there's activity again. And the same thing is happening now over on Live Auctioneers. We're seeing a lot of auctions coming in. There were a number of sales that did close out this week, including the Bronx sale, which we're going to get to at the end of this video, because they had some great results. And this is more for the people that use the live auction, that use the global member pages. But you can see what was going on over there at Bronx, because they always seem to do a very good job. Now let's see what's happening here. This was a very nice. This sold on eBay. This was a really nice late 18th, maybe early 19th century Chinese export armorial bowl and saucer, but very fine quality, beautiful detail, a little Latin on there. Here you go. But the quality was good. You notice there's no wear to the enamels, in very, very good shape. And somebody picked this up. I think this is a pretty reasonable buy. $160 for the cup and bowl, the bowl and saucer. I think that was a good thing, because it's a fairly fine bit of export porcelain in good condition. I didn't know who the seller was. One Stop Pottery Shop. Somebody fairly new. They've sold a lot of stuff, but I've never seen them do too much with Chinese works of art. But good work. Good job with the photography. Nice to see. And then on to this was the jadeite medallion, pendant, with the teardrop pendants hanging off of it. This was a nice piece of cut jadeite. It was in nice condition, nicely carved, and so forth, and good color. The stone had very nice color. And there's a lot of jadeite buyers out there, as you know, and it ended up bringing $972. Pretty good price, but not over the top for jadeite. Jadeite, as you know, is highly desirable when the color is good. This had nice color. And then moving on to this, the little twin fish gilt silver filigree pendant. This was really pretty. And those of you out there that haven't seen these before, pay attention to this. These are fairly small. Like you can see here, it fits on 4 fingers in the photograph. These are fairly small. These are the kind of things that turn up in group antique shops and jewelry cases, and people really don't know, what they are or where they're from, and they just put them in as silver fish. Sometimes they're sold as Italian. All right, I've seen them. I bought one very similar to this a number of years ago, and it was in a jewelry case at an antique group shop, listed as Italian silver filigree. It isn't. It's Chinese. You know it's Chinese right away. There's a Chinese cash coin right in the middle of it, and twin fish, of course, are very popular in Buddhist imagery. All right, and this did quite well. It ended up selling for $892. These have really become popular. And typically, if you find one in an antique shop, you can buy them for under $125, $150 at the most, if they don't know what it is. So it's something, if you're out there picking shops or out there going to auctions where they have box lots of jewelry, always look for these little silver gilt filigree fish. They do turn up in the United States, and sometimes they're they're double gourds hanging from little silver chains with coral on them too. They look like double gourd vases. You want to look for those too. Those sell well also. And then on to this, the Chinese export Famille Rose teapot. Very nice example, very pretty, loosely drawn, late 18th century, and it looked to be in quite good shape all the way around. And excellent, vibrant colors was the seller's description. This is Zephyr UK. He's fairly new, but he seems to have some nice items. And this was one of them, sold for $586. Very nice. And then moseying along over here, again, robes are still doing well. And this was a nice quality late Qing dragon robe. Here it is. There are a few pulls in the gilding on the dragon, and it needed to be pressed out. This thing was awfully wrinkly. But overall, a pretty nice looking robe with bits of wear and pull up around here, but overall in pretty good shape. Sold for $3,657. And I think that was a pretty reasonable buy. I think somebody got a good buy on that. Overall, I think I wouldn't have been surprised if it brought $5,000. But somebody picked it up for $3,657. So good on them. They got a good buy for themselves to start the year. Alrighty, and now over to this, the Chinese export tea service. We talked about this last week because I thought it was just so nice. It closed last Friday. Shortly after I did the video, I didn't have time to. We couldn't get it into the video last week, but it's closing just shortly after we finished it, and it ended up selling for $3,050. And this was the one that was hallmarked on the bottom by Wang Ning. If you as many of you know, if you use our site regularly, you know that there's a book over in the reference section that has all the silver marks in it in alphabetical order. You just go look it up, and you want to know who it is. Here he is. He was a Hong Kong silversmith, worked from the 1880s up to about into the 1930s. I think 1940 finally shut down, but this was sort of the work he was famous for. Really, really fine silver repoussé with bamboo handles. He apparently used bamboo handles a great deal. And this was a very nice silver service. This was a very nice example, and sold for $3,060, which $50, which I think is okay. I think that's a pretty good price. I don't think it's an overpayment at all. It's very pretty silver, and he was known in particular for early. I mentioned it last week. Early card cases in the 1880s, and those today are very collectible. And usually when a maker of silver has one area that becomes very collectible, his other areas also become very collectible. So this silver set was probably a pretty good investment for somebody. They dated it to about 1890. I think it was made a little after that, based on the style that the silversmith was known for, but not much after, maybe 1910 or something like that. But good quality. All right, and then let's see what else was going on here. Oh, this is really pretty. This was the ceramics and collectibles guys over in the Netherlands. They had this up. This is very nice. They dated it as 19th century, Famille Rose. But boy, it sure looks 18th century, doesn't it? Hold on a second here. Let's scroll down. Let's have a look at the tootsies on this, on the feet. Okay, there's the bottom. Okay, it is 19th century, but very, very fine work. All right, and this is it's a type of factory mark, late Qing factory mark, but very nice quality. Wow, very, very handsome, very good. This is the kind of thing. This is interesting because I hadn't really looked at this. I just thought it was awfully pretty and looked to be 18th century, but they said 19th. That's why they said 19th, because of the mark on the back. But boy, if it didn't have the mark on the back, it could pretty easily slip through as a late 18th century dish with that big border. But at any rate, it sold for $820 with a little chip out of the rim, 3 chips in 2 lines close to each other, and it still did very well. But it was a wonderful looking thing with the precious objects and bronzes here, gilt bronze, and you have a nice looking water pot there in the foreground with the Dowdy mask on it, jade books, and all this other stuff. Quite attractive, very good. And that was sort of it for the week over on eBay last week. Like I said, there wasn't a lot on there. This next week is going to be very, very different. And if you're looking for things to buy, check out the newsletter page because there's a lot to look at now in the auction as well as the fixed price area. All right, and now let's mosey on over to live auctioneers on the global member pages. I want to run through some of the things that happened. That are coming up, things that have sold and so forth. One of the sales that's coming up in a few days is this one. This is Laurel Art and Gallery Inc. in New York. They have a nice looking sale coming up with quite a bit of Kangxi porcelain in it, an 18th century porcelain. It's on the global member pages. Way down the page. I think I jumped ahead of it a little bit here. Let's get down to it. Here it is. This is the section. It's the lower part. They have a nice assortment of blue and white. This is all their stuff, as far as I know. If you get if you remember the global member pages, the links are all right here. And here's a whole bunch of nice Kangxi pieces in here, and the estimates are all very, very low. Very low. We'll just take a look. This is a really nice little Kangxi jar, estimated at $400 to $600 with a $200 opening bid. The jar measures 20 centimeters, 8 inches tall, should bring $1,000 to $1,500 all day long. So the estimates, this is all stuff that's buyable, all right? And according to this, they do offers in-house shipping. So that's good to know. And then they have this Wan Li bowl, also about 7 or 8 inches in diameter, something like that. Nicely done with a stork on it. Here's a picture of the bottom. Looks perfectly fine. Very typical base to one of these. There it is. nicely trimmed, all hand trimmed with the little bits of kiln grit here and there, and that soft blue that you find on late Ming on Wan Li porcelain is there. Again, $400 to $600, $200 opening bid. I think they did everything like this. And then you have this 18th century ewer. This is a nice one. European, it's based on a Middle Eastern metal design rather, on a much earlier time. This thing is either Kangxi to probably Kangxi to mid 18th century. And if you hear some wind blowing out, you hear some rattling here, it's an incredibly windy day outside today here. We have monstrous waves rolling in. Any rate. And then on to this. This is the a set of 4 Femi-Vert porcelain dishes with the immortals running around the room. This is a very well-known pattern with the twin ducks in the middle, and a nice aquatic scene, very attractive. 4 plates. And this is Neal Auctions in Louisiana has this sale coming up. They're estimated at $2,000 to $4,000 with a $1,300 starting bid, which is reasonable. These are 8 3/4 inches in diameter. They were made during the Kangxi period. From as far as I can tell, that's what they sure look like. Here's the backs of them. Yeah, Kangxi period. Apparently, whoever owned them bought them from Stair and Company a while ago. That's another very good auction house up in New York. $2,000 to $4,000. So they're starting price of around $300 or $400, $400 a plate, which is 300 and change, but 325 a plate. That's reasonable. Typically, these sell for in the $400 to $600 range, $450 to $650, and fancy galleries charge a heck of a lot more. They charge $1,000 to $1,500 each for these. All right, and then over here, this was the stuff that sold at Bronx the other day. And there's a lot more on the global member pages. That was just a few of the highlights. Those just popped up this week. They didn't post very early, from what we could tell. The Laurel Auction Gallery, they didn't post things. This is not Lauren. We know who those guys are. This is Laurel in New York. No connection. But they seem to have just put the images up in the last few days. We caught it and got them on there. And we'll be updating the global member pages tomorrow and taking off all the sold stuff and putting up some new listings that we came across that look pretty good. And we'll talk about those another day. But here you have that nice Swato bowl that I liked quite a bit. I thought the estimate was very reasonable, $800 to $1,200, and it ended up selling for $1,600, which is fine. It's a big dish. This thing was something like 15 inches diameter. Nice big Swato plate, but very good quality Swato. The face decoration was good. Often Swato can get awfully messed up, and this was pretty tidy artwork, nicely done, and ended up doing, in the end, just fine, $1,600. And then over here, this is something that's coming up. This is a sale that Heinemann has coming up in about 3 weeks. They've got some nice Chinese export pieces. This is one of these sort of bamboo ribbed or shouldered export bases, 18th century, pretty nice looking, and estimated at $2,000 to $3,000 with a $1,000 opening bid. But it's 15 inches tall. These are fairly good sized vases. You often find them made into lamps for obvious reasons. They're a beautiful height for a lamp. You don't have to drill them anymore. If you want a really, really great table lamp, spend a couple of $1,000s and buy one of these. These are beautiful with a nice shade. And this is also coming up at Heinemann. It's a nice looking mid to late 19th century Coromandel screen. If you're looking for a nice screen, it's done in somewhat in the Kangxi style. So visually it may come off that way. It is a 19th century one based on how thick it is, the thickness of it, and the way the base is done, and the decoration. But boy, it's nice quality. Here's a good look at it here. This is good looking Coromandel work. And nice looking borders with precious objects around the side, bronzes and vases, scholars' objects and rocks and all this other stuff. Always something to look at with a nice. And screens are remarkably inexpensive for what they are. I think they're one of the great undervalued items in the Asian art market. Is nice 18th and 19th century folding screens. I don't think they get anywhere near the respect they deserve, nor the prices they deserve. It's always surprised. It's just always amazing. It's been this way now for a while. About 25, 30 years ago, screens were bringing a lot of money. That sort of leveled off. I don't know why. And I think they are just great bargains. All right, and then this is let's see here. This is this is the rest of the bunk sale. This is what I wanted to show everybody. This was one of the big surprises. This was a beautifully potted Korean blue and white vase, Joseon period, but very very nice. And this is a style of Korean vase when they almost look like inflated balloons. They did a lot of dragon vases, and most of them are fairly tall and only flare out slightly at the shoulder, and the surface is fairly rustic on them. This is one of these much more refined pieces, beautifully done, probably 18th century. I think they dated it as 19th century. I think it was actually an 18th century one. But excellent quality. But the potting looks very 18th century to me. The dragon is powerfully drawn, and they gave it a very reasonable estimate of just $5,000 to $7,000. It sold for $60,000, and this was a pretty big pot, 17 inches tall. It had been sold at Butterfields and Butterfields in San Francisco back in 1997 for $14,000. All right. That doesn't. I don't think Butterfield and Butterfield was well, maybe they did. Butterfield and Butterfield eventually was bought out by Bonhams. I think it was right around that time when they bought it, late '90s, about 20-something years ago. At any rate, it was a very good buy then, and boy, didn't it do well. But that's fine Korean stuff. In the late '90s, there was a lot of interest in Korean stuff, but there was a lot of confusion in the market about how old things were and what they were. So there you go. I think this is a good sign for Korean porcelain. And then on to this. This was a dish that I had a number of inquiries on through the identification assistant thing in the preview assistant. I think I had 8 inquiries on this, so I'm afraid a lot of you might have maybe competed against each other. And I had thought, it being $2,500 to $3,500. I didn't see it in person, so it's hard to say. But it did much better than that. It doubled what I thought it would bring, at least. It ended up selling for $6,500. But it was a Guangzhou Marken period dish. This was a really, really lovely bit of cobalt. The cobalt ground on this was outstandingly pretty. Very deep, very sapphire-y, very bright, very strong, beautiful. And the quality of the gilding was superb, absolutely superb for Guangzhou, because some of their work sometimes wasn't as good as it could be. But when you look at this work here, the way the scales are done, absolutely meticulously done. Absolutely meticulously done. Every stroke of the dragon's head is well done. There are no mistakes in here. Beautifully executed. And here's a picture of the bottom of it. It's a funny thing because I remember the bottom of this says marked Dao Quan, early 19th century, and that's actually a Guangzhou mark. So whoever went to the trouble of making the label, it's also, this plate was 13 inches diameter. It was a charger, which made it quite a bit rare, I guess, because they didn't make a lot of chargers with Marken period backs on them, but they had it marked Daoguan, and somehow something got lost in translation, and in the end it did very, very well. All right, now mosey over to this. They had a dragon robe also, a silver gilt threaded one. Beautiful skirt on this, beautiful gilt thread bottom, and the wave pattern here, of course, and these very nicely articulated dragons standing out perfectly against the background. And overall, this robe looked to be in quite good condition. The sleeves may have had a modification at some point, which is pretty typical on these. They look like they might have, but very nice quality, very, very nice quality overall. And ended up selling for $7,500 against a $2,000 to $4,000 estimate. But silk is still very strong. All right, so if you're collecting silk, you know that. But I'm just saying it for everybody else. And then we talked about the Wan Li charger. And then the satsuma, the big, I talked about this when it first went up because I thought it was such a nice piece of satsuma. And I think I said in the video that if you can get it for anywhere in that estimate, boy, it's a nice purchase. And in the end, it did a bit better. It sold for $2,000. But this was powerfully potted, powerfully decorated, nice big size. I think it was 16 inches tall or something, 17 3/4 inches tall, almost 18 inches. This was a great big jar. And I think $2,000 still was okay for this because the workmanship on it was just so terrific. This is just great work. All of this, the way they did the skin tone on this, you can see the crackles coming through the sort of translucent brown wash they used, and just very, very nice. Beautifully done all the way around, and $2,000. But if you're a Satsuma buyer, I think this would have been a good thing. It had the Shimuzu family crest on the bottom. And then lastly was this. This was, I think, one of the really good buys of the day. It was a group of 9. These were all on the global member pages in the we put together before the sale. This was a group of 9 framed Chinese watercolors. These are not pith paintings. I got 2 inquiries about these, and they thought the estimate seemed high, and I said no, the estimate's low because these are not on pith. These were on paper. And they're very nice quality 19th century Qing Dynasty Chinese watercolors depicting people in daily pastimes. This is one of these series that was put together. It was probably in a nice sized album, and it was sort of again, we've talked about it before, the representation of the idealized life of the Chinese person. And here you have them enjoying flowers out on a beautiful terrace by a little canal that comes in with some water in it. It looks like a swimming pool almost in this picture here, but it's not. It's just the steps to go down to the water. And here's another area with people milling about and whatnot. And looks like maybe the tide went out here. There's no water there, which is interesting. And then children with their parents playing in this wonderful oversized stand, which you typically see. They're much smaller. People put objects on them and so forth. And then you have a lady and a child in a boat. She's got a pole. She's poling the boat along, and the people are watching from the shore. Just wonderful pictures, all framed and ready to hang. And they ended up selling for $2,600, which I think was a great buy. These were pretty good size watercolor on paper. Each site sizes were 13 by 17, so these were pretty good size sheets. These were nice size sheets, not little 8 by 10s. These were nice big ones, and framed they were each 15 by almost 20 inches, 19 inches. So they would make a wall. If you were doing a dining room, these things would look absolutely great, or a wall in a library or something, or in a hallway up a staircase. They'd be absolutely fabulous. And somebody bought all 9 of them for $2,600, or under what does that come out to? About $275 a piece, which I think is a steal. You couldn't get them framed for that each. So bravo. It looked like nice silvered sort of trim frame. Nice framing job. Looks good. Looks nice. Nice package, all ready to hang. $2,600, and it would probably cost. To get those shipped anywhere in the United States, you could probably do it for about $150, $175, something like that. At any rate, so that was sort of the week in a nutshell, and things are getting busy again. Auctions seem to be populating up. There'll be some sales coming up in New York pretty soon. There's some sales coming up over in Hong Kong. So things are happening. And it's good to see. We're off to a new year, off to a new start, and that's it. So have a great week. Subscribe here if you haven't already, and join us over at bitamount.com and Bitamount Live if you want to look at some of the things over there that are for sale. And we're going to start doing some blogs and things over there regarding the items that are being offered and whatnot. And follow that along. And if you'd like to sell something, put it on that account. The fees over there are half of what eBay charges, and we built it for you guys to use. So I hope you do. Alrighty, and have a great weekend. And I'll be back next week. We'll do a collection, some sort of collector video in the middle of the week, and then we'll do the regular video at the end of the week. All right. Next Friday I may be up. I may do Friday's video on Thursday because I'm going to be out doing something on Friday with my physician. But at any rate, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Okay, have a great weekend and stay warm out there, and see you soon. All right, bye-bye.